All right. I want to cut to the chase immediately because there are so many videos on how to overcome depression. And if you clicked on this, you might be one of those people that are just looking for actionable things right now that you can do to kick depression in the teeth. And here's what I do when I have spells of depression like everyone else does. Okay? Number one, realize it's a temporary state of mind. It's not who you are. It might last a week or 2 or 4, and it's gonna feel like hell, okay? But it is not who you are. Just like grief and anger, these things go away. They come and they feel powerful and they take us over, and then they go away. That's what depression is. It's just a season that you have to go through. But how can you get out of it faster? How can you actually beat it? Well, once you accept that it's a state of mind that you might not necessarily be able to control, it's just a feeling, okay? Take small actions. Do tiny little things like folding laundry, like sweeping, like tidying up. And I know that you have no energy. All you want to do is sleep, and everything feels absolutely fucking just meaningless. I get it. It feels like the devil is sucking your will to live out through your forehead. I get it, okay? But depression is a game of momentum. You know what it's like? It's like trying to start an old car in the freezing cold, okay? Small actions are you trying to start it, seeing what happens, and then giving it a break because you don't want to flood the engine, all right? These small actions that you take, these small things that you do, cooking a meal for yourself, sitting in silence, picking up a guitar or playing piano or drawing. You haven't drawn in a long time. You used to like to do that, remember? Doing something without a brain doing something without a screen that's not frying your brainstem and overstimulating what little energy you have. Doing small tactile things that help improve your life, even in some small way. Going through your mail, separating what's garbage and shredding it to what you should probably pay that toll. You should probably call on that bill. Tiny little actions. And what you're trying to do here is you're trying to gain momentum, okay? Eventually, you'll break through that barrier and accomplish some things. You'll get some wins and gain momentum, and you'll start using that momentum to try to go uphill, right? And if you roll back down, accept it. It's fine. Don't pile on what is already a pretty shitty way to feel with negative self-talk and a defeatist mentality. Don't define the struggle you're going through by the failures or the wins. Don't do it. Define your success and your battle with depression as attempts, okay? Just the attempt to go do something is kind of worth everything in that moment. Whether you give up halfway through or you're like, fuck this, or whatever it is. The attempt to go do anything while feeling depression is a huge success. So that's number one, or number 2, or number 3. Accept that it's a temporary state. Go try to do some small actions to gain momentum, to push that car up the hill. And if it rolls back down, that's fine, because it's just the attempts that we're looking for here. Attempts at small little actions, okay? Trying to start the car out in the freezing cold and the engine isn't the best. It's going to do what it wants to do. What are we doing here? We're trying to tell ourselves that we cannot necessarily control the depression, all right? There's a million reasons as to why you're feeling this way. And you are going to desire to not feel depression anymore. You're like, man, I wish I could just not feel like this ever again. All right. And that is possible, but it takes a long time. There's a lot of stuff we have to really think about, probably with professional help, and work out for ourselves. Right. But none of that is an antidote for right now. For right now, while we're feeling terrible. And we do this thing, right? those of us that go into the dark valley of depression. I think it was Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey has this great quote about the depression versus sadness, right? And what's the difference? The difference is with sadness, you can usually identify where it's coming from, right? What is our enemy here in sadness? What is attacking us and making us feel like this? With depression, it's a ghost, it's a phantom, it's a specter that you cannot identify. It is a dark cloud in the cartoon raining on the character for seemingly no reason. That's what depression is and what it feels like in that moment. So trying to identify triggers and, figuring out ways to talk ourselves out of it or to control it, or denying that it's happening to us or anything like that, or thinking that this is how we're going to feel for forever, right? These are all bad things to do. Probably the worst thing for me personally, when I feel super Bilbo, right? Baggins said it best. Butter spread over too much bread. That's kind of how I feel. I feel so strung out emotionally that I feel almost like numb to everything going on around me. I have no desire. I don't even want to watch Netflix because I don't have the energy to pick something to watch. It's like when you're laying in bed but you can't quite sleep because you have restless leg syndrome, where it's just like, God, I gotta move my legs, right? It's like anything that you try to do to satisfy the moment of depression feels like that in your mind. You'll pick something, you think you want to watch it for a second, and you're like, God, I really don't want to watch this. This isn't it, and you got to turn it off, right? That's what it feels like for me. Nothing feels satisfying. Nothing helps to distract me from that, the absence of feeling, right? And that's why I just say, okay, cool, fuck it. This is what I'm going through. Then I'm going to clean my desk. I'm going to sweep under the oven. I'm going to groom my dog. I'm going to do tiny little things that don't need my emotional support. I don't need to talk myself into it. They're tiny. They're so tiny. They're tiny little things. And sometimes I will get up to go do the thing, right? And I'll get halfway. I'll be like, I really don't want to do this. And sometimes I give up and I say, this isn't what I want to do right now. And that's fine. All right. Now, here's the thing. When I'm talking about depression, having personally gone through it, there is a really huge silver lining, which is that it happens to me less and less and less. I don't feel depression now, married with a kid in my 30s, as I felt it in my 20s. I think it's really important to identify at what stage of life you are feeling depression. Because depression in your 20s is very different than depression in your 50s, depression in your 60s, depression in your 70s, when all your kids are grown up and they're moved away and no one's coming to visit you and you're kind of just trying to find yourself again after this life of raising kids and identifying as a parent and blah, 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 blah. And it's very different in your 20s. I think something that's super wild in our society, right? And I'm not a medical professional, so talk to someone. I'm just speaking from my own experiences. I think it's wild if you feel depression, that the first thing you do is go seek out medication, right? In my opinion, the first thing that you should do is seek out professional help. That is talk therapy. Talk therapy. Just having someone to talk to. Even though you're paying them, right? And they're being paid to be there and listen to you. And sometimes you might get paired with someone that isn't great, right? That's okay. Talk therapy can be really super useful, right? If you're feeling lonely and depressed, to have that person that you show up for and they show up for you week over week and you just kind of talk. that is surprisingly cathartic. Even when you talk to them when you're in the midst of depression, you're like, I don't really feel like talking, right? It's still incredibly useful. Yes, depression can be an imbalance of chemicals in the brain and hormones and all this stuff that we've been told by 2 a.m. infomercials for pharmaceuticals. Yes, this is true. This is true. But do you really think that many people in the world have a chemical imbalance in their brain that need medication to be better, to feel better? You think tens of millions of people? I don't know. I think it might be something else. I think it might be something else from personal experience. And I think it's a lack of giving ourselves time to reflect. I think so much of how we behave in daily life is output. It's output, right? We wake up, we output our time to shower. We output our time to make ourselves food. We output our time to go to work. We output our time to come home. And then the only inputs that we have are distractions, entertainment. Sometimes we can even fool ourselves at thinking that we're educating ourselves because the video that we're watching on YouTube is semi-educational. That's interesting. I didn't know that about that thing. Whoa, I'm learning. I'm a learner of things. I'm improving myself. But really, it is just another form of distraction input. And so we're doing all this output and we're doing very little input of reflection. And that burns a person out. Well, you know what that does? That hollows a person out because you become kind of a cog in the day-to-day life without really sitting down and facing what are the age-old philosophical questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my happiness? What is my bliss? What is my meaning? And these are like borderline unanswerable questions. But just like with depression, where the attempts are what counts, that's what counts for those big philosophical questions. The attempts to sit down and try to figure out who you are. How do you see yourself? Is how you see yourself dependent on how the world sees you? Are those two visions of you conflicting? Do you see yourself differently as the world sees you? Do you want the world to see you differently? What is happiness to you? And just happiness in general is like pretty fucking overrated. It really is. I've said this before. I don't generally get excited about things. I don't really get giddy about a lot of things, you know? I found out that there's a new Christopher Nolan movie coming out next year being made or whatever, and it's going to be about 19th century vampires. It's going to be a horror movie, and I get that excited me because I called it. I literally told my wife 6 months ago, he's made so many different genres of film, blah, 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 blah. I bet you the next movie he's going to make is going to be a horror film. And I was right about that, and that made me happy. But happiness in general, the pursuit of happiness, I see those monks walking around the monasteries in Tibet, you know? They seem pretty chill and content with what's going on, you know? Are they actively trying to climb ranks in video games, you know? I don't think so. I think that they're just accepting, right? That's the whole thing about Buddhism. You accept that life is suffering, and then you get over it. And there's something about that. There's something about being able to control, realizing that you don't control the amount of suffering around you and in you, that is kind of winning back your control, right? But this idea of happiness, has changed. It really has become something kind of volatile in today's society. I talked to some friends of mine, that are kind of going through it. They weren't in a good place. I said, well, what do you want? And they said, I just want a bunch of money to retire and do whatever I want. And I was like, okay, you want to control your time. You're tired of giving your time away. And you're tired of being stifled by finances. You want financial freedom. Financial freedom and having your time back, that's admirable. Great. If you had all the money in the world, right? If you had $5 million in the bank and your house was paid off, what would you do then? A lot of people don't know how to face that question. They don't know how to face that. What would you do if money wasn't a problem and time wasn't a thing that you were constantly giving away to make money? What would you do? What would make you happy? For me, I have a lot of things. I like writing. I like blah, 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 but it's not about me. It's about you. What would you do? What would you do? What's the thing that you would just do to be happy? And this is what I mean by today's happiness seems a little weird to me, is a lot of people's happiness is the money. They think it is the money. They think pursuing $10,000 a month online, blah, 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 blah. The pursuit of that is the happiness. That is not the happiness. That is actually a pretty quick fucking slope to hate yourself because you're not there yet. You're comparing yourself to this. It's like that great scene from The Dark Knight where he says, if I was a dog chasing an ambulance, whatever, I don't even know what I would do if I caught it. I think that's a lot of people. Sadly, I think a lot of people feel like if they just had the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do, they would be happy. Unfortunately, the things that they want to do in that scenario, they're not doing right now. And that's a problem. There's something really amazing to be said for people that work full time and get off work and then come home and actually do the thing that makes them happy. Like making lamps or bead jewelry or, practicing drafting of our buildings because they want to be architects and they never followed that dream. And I'm not saying everybody has to follow their dream to do their dream job. Depression has this way of making you feel like you're just stuck in a black hole and you'll never get out. But it's so weird to me. The things that have helped me really crawl out of that feeling are just like these light bulb turning on. And it's just small considerations of things I haven't thought about before, or seeing things from a new perspective. Like, wow, I guess I could do that. I guess I actually, technically speaking, could do that one thing that I've been really wanting to do. And I don't need all that expensive gear to do it. I don't need anyone's permission to do it. I can just do it, right? I can just do it. If I want to make a movie and I have a phone, people have made really successful movies on iPhones. There's no reason not to do it. Excuses are a weird thing, There's one scenario in particular that kind of bothers me, is when somebody asks you a question and then you're like, why are you late to work? And you're like, I was late to work because of XYZ. And they say, well, those are just excuses. And it's like, yeah, those are fucking excuses. Like that is, excuses are fine. They're not bad in and of themselves. Excuses are things that happen to you. They are obstacles that are holding you back. You can't just not have them. Shit happens. And then that shit that happens requires an explanation. And those explanations are excuses, right? It's okay to have excuses. It's okay to have those obstacles. The question is, are they real? Are they real? Are they self-imposed? That is an interesting question. Because one of the things I think I gravitate towards when I'm in a negative emotional headspace is asking myself, Are these things really real? Are they really happening to me? Or am I kind of putting those barriers up? Is the world putting them up for me, or am I putting them up for myself? And if I'm putting them up for myself, what would happen if I just didn't believe in them anymore? If I just stopped believing that it's hard to break into this industry, or that it's hard to learn this new skill? What if I had the opposite belief? What if I believed that it's actually pretty easy? What if I had the belief that, I was built for this, and I'm the person that can do it? And and that feels a lot better to believe, and then I try to move forward on that belief. I have a real problem with the way that we kind of treat people that are going through depression, as if it's not a normal state of human existence. I think here's an interesting take. I think that if you are a person that is going through depression, you're probably doing something right. Because there are people who are totally content with no creativity or ambition, and they're kind of just stuck in this routine, but they're totally content with it, and that's fine. But for people where there's a separation between where they are in life and where they want to be, depression can rear its ugly head. And that's kind of a good thing, because it shows that you're kind of, even if you don't quite get that conversation that's happening inside of you, or why it's happening, or that there even is a separation between who you are and who you want to be, if you don't even fully understand that yet, that's good that that's a thing that's happening. Because that voice could be telling you, it's time to make a change. It's time to grow. It's time to try something different. It's time to see yourself as something different. It's time to not care so much about some things and care more about others. I think that's a good thing. I think that, that's like the proverbial birthing pains of you trying to become a person that ultimately will be happy. I don't think happiness is overrated. I think happiness is good. I think that the pursuit of happiness is such a high ideal and priority is overrated. I don't really understand why this world is so hell-bent on kicking people while they're down. We live in a world with so many distractions, technological advancements that just want to suck up your fucking time. And none of it's good for your mental health. None of it's positive. None of it's going to make you feel better as a human being. We live in a world where, and when there is something wrong with you, there's another industry that's ready to prescribe you this pill or that pill. And the food sucks. It's all garbage. The TV sucks. The food sucks. The doctors fucking suck. Don't even get me started on the healthcare industry, dude. None of it is your ally. None of it, it's kind of a weird thing too. None of it is your ally. It's all working against you. The doctors want to make money off of you. Netflix wants to make money off of you. The food places have a vested priority in their food not expiring the second it shows up at the grocery store. Thus, they need to put preservatives and spray it with this and that and the other thing. It might not be the healthiest. These dating apps, none of it is there to make you feel better as a human being. But here's the kicker. Ready? The things that exist today to make you feel complete are the same things that have always existed to make you feel complete. Small little actions and attempts to organize your life, your environment, and your mind to become a place that feels okay, that feels good. Cleaning your house, cleaning out your email. Like, there's this idea of like digital hoarding. Like, we're always out like taking pictures and videos with our phones, but how many people actually like sit down and like go through those? How often do you do that? You know, Alan Watts has this great thing where he talks about why is it that we get more joy out of capturing a moment on film or video than just being in the moment, as if we're capturing it so we can relive it. We're trying to capture the essence of it, but that's not really what happens. We don't really capture that amazing novelty experience on camera or video, right? But the idea that we do, we find more joy in that we'll be able to relive it than actually living it. I don't know, man. There's something really holistic about the idea of like a return to nature and a return, like a kind of a running away from technology that I really agree with. I really think that there should probably be like a day a week where we just like don't use technology. That would probably solve a lot. A day where we don't watch TVs and use computers and use our phones. That would probably solve a lot. The irony of that is I know that when I feel depressed, the idea of going outside and seeing other human beings sounds like hell on earth, you know? But that's a lot of what getting through depression is. It's taking your vitamins even though they're bitter. It's a lot of doing things that are good for you even though they sound terrible. But that's it. I just wanted to talk about depression. And I don't want to talk about depression in some Jordan Peterson type way where I'm talking about no. Like, I'm talking about real depression from someone who really has gone through a shit ton of depression. And the worst thing that you can do is tell yourself like, oh, this is who I am now. I'm just a depressed person. That's not true. You just feel depressed in the same way that you feel grief and you feel anger. And it waxes and wanes and it goes away over time. This is probably a topic I'm going to talk about again. I know it was kind of scatterbrained, but I don't even think that matters. I think it's important that we just talk about what depression is, what it feels like for each of us, what we each do, our own little tips and tricks to get out of it, and share that with each other. Because while it might be a little bit different for all of us, we all know it fucking sucks. So I hope this helped you in some small way. And if you're going through it right now, you know, maybe really consider reaching out to professional help. I like BetterHelp.com. You literally just sign up on the phone app and you pick the criteria of the kind of person you want to talk to. So you're not really paired up with someone completely random. Like, you get to pick, like, do you want to talk to a male or female? What age do you want them to be? What are your specific things? And they find you someone that's like an expert for your specific situation. And you just hop on the phone, just like a FaceTime. And it was a really cool experience. It helped me a lot. I highly recommend it. So if you kind of have like this recursive nature with depression where it keeps returning and you haven't tried talk therapy yet, I would try it. All right. If this video helped you or you think it's bullshit, let me know in the comments. I definitely want to hear from you guys on this one. All right. Peace.